Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of Talk is Deep podcast. I was supposed to be on here with my friend Sarah tonight, but she's unfortunately still at work, so we have her boyfriend Andreas instead. Great.
Hey.
A little backstory on our friendship. I met Andreas first at work, and him and Sarah had been dating for years, and if I wanted to continue to be friends with Andreas, I had to be friends with Sarah too. The end. But no, actually I love Sarah. She's one of my best friends, and she's one of my bridesmaids as well. But yeah, Andreas and I met at Nordia in training, and we've been super good friends ever since. What did you think of me when you first met me?
Honestly, like the first thing that I remember, you can put your phone down, it's fine. The first thing that I remember was when you came back and got your license. And I think the only reason I remember like that specifically, that was probably a couple days after we actually met. Yeah. Like, I don't know, how far into training was that?
I think it was a couple weeks.
Okay. Well, either way, we weren't like sitting beside each other yet because they didn't do any desk rearranging. Yeah. But I remember that because Kenny, our trainer, made a joke saying like, "Oh, let me know when to not be on the roads" or something like that. And then I heard him make that joke like 6 more times. But at any rate, it was funny because you were like super embarrassed, and I was like, that's funny.
Well, I thought I was gonna fail. I honestly thought I was gonna fail. I didn't take driver's ed or anything. Like, I honestly had probably driven by myself 5 times, or not by myself, but like driven with someone else 5 times before I took that test. And I thought I was gonna fail. I almost got into an accident while like my driver's test was going on. It was horrible, but it wasn't like, it wouldn't have been my fault, so the guy didn't care. But I did pass, surprisingly. I shouldn't have, but I did. And I'm still a terrible driver, so.
Well, yeah, that's true, actually.
John thinks I'm horrible.
John's kind of a crazy driver, too.
Well, I know. Like, that's what I tell him, but he doesn't listen to me. He just thinks he's the best.
Yeah, so that was what I first remember thinking. And then I think that because you were in, like, the same kind of, like, age group, I think you're, like, a year older than Sarah's little sister.
Yeah.
I was, like...
2 years older.
Okay, 2 years older, yeah. But you were, like, just coming out of high school, or it seemed like you were.
Oh, thank you.
Was it like you were, like, a year out of high school?
I think, like, 2 years. I graduated in 2014, and it was literally January, like, 16th or 17th, 2016 that we started.
Yeah, so it was, like, a year.
2 years.
Okay, whatever.
A year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. Okay. So, anyways, you reminded me a little bit of Sarah's little sister. Yeah. Because you would like say the same shit as her and stuff like that. So.
Like what? What do you...
I don't know, you just talked like a high school girl. So.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, well, that was like one of the first things I said to Sarah about you. Okay,
before Sarah met me, when, like, just like by things that you told her, what did she think of me?
I don't know, this is a while ago now.
I know, yeah.
I don't really remember telling her that much about you. Really. Like, yeah. I'd talk about our training class in general, but I don't remember, like, specifically what I'd say or how much I even really talked about it. See, I was, like, actually paying attention in training.
See, I wasn't.
So I was probably more talking to her about, like, I found out how to do all this stuff, and I think this job's going to be pretty easy.
I was more looking at John in the back of our training class trying to get his attention. Oh my god, I remember when we were in training though, he was sitting at the back of the room because he had to like observe our class or whatever to get ready for A-Bay, I guess. And he would have to walk by me to get to a seat, and so I would try and get his attention when he walked by me, and he would never ever look at me. Like, it was so frustrating, and sometimes I thought he was literally just oblivious because I was being like way over the top. There's no way he hasn't noticed me. But later I found out that it's because he had a girlfriend.
Ozzy.
And later I found out that it's because he had a girlfriend, but that didn't stop me. I kept trying. I was relentless. But then he was going through a breakup, and we ended up starting a friendship, and then that's when he saw how cool and amazing I was.
After you stalked him.
Yes. Oh my god, you know what we should talk about? Canada's Wonderland, when we were driving back.
Yeah, when I was driving home from Canada's Wonderland in your car and you thought you saw John. It wasn't even him.
No, it wasn't him, no.
Made me drive around the block twice.
And Sarah and Natalie were, like, sleeping in the car, and I thought they were both sleeping, but Sarah told me after that she was, like, kind of awake, and she was so pissed. She's like, just go home. But yeah, no, I did think I saw John. It wasn't even, like, really his neighborhood. I mean, it kind of was. And I shouldn't have even known where he lived at this point, but I did.
It's because you'd, like, followed him home the week before, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. I can't believe we're talking about this. It's okay. He knows. He knows everything. But yeah, no, we left work, probably, like, it had been, like, an hour since we finished, and I had nowhere to be, obviously, so I stuck.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
The dog started to bark, so.
Yeah, so it was like an hour after we finished work, and I had nowhere to be, so I was just driving around waiting for him to come out, because he had to stay longer, obviously. And it was like an hour and a half, I think, and I was about to go home. I was like, you know what, there's no point on doing this, like, he's either already left, or he's still there, or he went somewhere else. But then I saw him. I saw him walking down the street, so I followed him, and he went into Mac's Milk, and so I parked the car, and I was just, like, sitting in there, and I was like, okay, like, if he was standing outside, actually, and I'm like, okay, if he goes in to the store, like, I will too, and I'll, like, be like, oh, what are you doing here? Pretend that, like, I didn't know.
Didn't you buy a bottle of water?
I did, yeah. So anyways, he was talking on the phone, and he hung up, and he went in the store, and I was like, okay, I have to do this. So I took a deep breath, I grabbed my wallet, and I went in, and he was, like, standing right at the door when I walked in, and I pretended to be so surprised. I was like, oh, hey, and he was like, hey. Like, he didn't even care. And then I went to the back, and I bought a bottle of water, and then he was in front of me, so he paid. And he said something to me. It wasn't important, but I offered him a ride home, and it was like dead winter because we were still in training, and he said no.
Did he know you were following him?
No, not at the time. He does now, but no, he didn't at the time, somehow. Like, you'd think after the 5th time we randomly ran into each other out of work. No, I'm just kidding. It was only that one time. I promise. But no, literally the same day that we met John in training, I said to you, I was like, I'm gonna marry that guy one day. And look where we are now.
Yeah.
But everyone at Nordia thought you and I were dating at first.
Yeah, or they thought we knew each other beforehand.
True, yeah. I think, like, everyone on the floor at some point asked me, like, what was going on. Like, not
I think that happens in a lot of training classes too. Like, I've always had people say about, like, their training class that people will ask them, like, just like people that they end up being friends with, people always assume that they knew each other beforehand. But yeah, I don't know.
You were just my only friend there, so you were the only person.
Yeah, everyone hated you, that's why.
Other than Amy, I love Amy. She's in my wedding too.
Yeah, but Amy wasn't in our training class.
No, yeah, she was in, I think, the one before.
And you guys, like, didn't get along right away.
No, well, we were super good friends in grade 9. And then, I don't even know what happened, but sometime throughout high school, we, like, stopped being friends. And then at some point, because of one of my ex-boyfriends, we stopped liking each other because she was super good friends with him. But then pretty much as soon as I got the job at Nordia, I texted her and I was like, hey, like, I'm starting in a few weeks or whatever. And we were, like, pretty cool after that. Like, it was kind of awkward at first because we hadn't seen each other in so long, but then, like, shortly after, we were pretty good friends, and we're even better friends now after we both left the place, so.
Yeah. That's true. You just had her birthday recently, right?
Yep.
Or, like, went to her birthday.
Yeah, that was super fun. It was a good night. I love not going downtown. Like, it's obviously fun sometimes, but we just, like, stayed at her house. And I left pretty early, actually, but we just stayed at her house. And, yeah, it was just, like, it was a good change not going downtown because it's just always the same thing. and it gets pretty boring after
Does
a while.
she live in town?
Yep, she lives actually like pretty much 2 blocks away from where John used to live. And he dropped me off, and he was like pretty weirded out that it was the exact same neighborhood.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So do you remember when you first met Sarah?
Yep. We you're gonna bring this up. I thought that she was great. Like, I know that she like was testing me as soon as I got there because I brought like 4 beers, and she like asked if she could have one or something, and I said yes, luckily, because she told me after that like she just wanted to see if she would if I was generous enough to give the host a drink.
I think it wasn't even just the host, it was just her specifically.
Oh,
You
yeah.
needed to give her a drink. But she always does that.
Yeah.
Tries to test people.
Well, Greg, I'm glad that I passed. And I passed the second one, too. She asked me what type of music I like to listen to, and I was like, oh, I like older music. And she was like, what do you consider older music, though? Because I'm 4 years older than you. And I was like, oh, like Queen, the Beatles. And she was like, okay, good, because I thought you were going to say, like, Britney Spears or something.
I mean, her music is pretty old now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, that's cool.
And then what did we do after? We went to Aria. And you asked me, I whispered in your ear, I said something that you didn't obviously understand, and then after you texted me and you were like, did you say that like you don't know what you think about Sarah? And I was like, no, I love Sarah. I was talking about someone else.
Who?
Fuck off. That's not important.
It's okay, he's not going to listen to this.
No,
so.
he's not. Hopefully. He follows me on Instagram.
We're talking about Joey.
What? You have to cut that out.
Why?
I don't know. Shouldn't I, like, let everyone know if they're on
you're
my
the one
podcast?
who's supposed to show up with the talking topics.
I know, I ran out. I'm done. That's all I had written down.
That's all you had?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, well, anyways.
You're gonna have to help me out.
Besides, like, after we first met and we went through training, went through A-Bay, there was one time when you passed out in our morning huddle before work.
At least I showed up. That was our last day of A-Bay. So many of us went out that night before and didn't show up the next morning, and I was a trooper. I came in.
No, everyone went out the night after.
Oh.
You were like the only person who went out the night before.
Okay, well,
because I think I asked you the day of, because we were all going to go play pool. And,
right.
like, me, John, Joey, Brenda,
oh, yeah.
and Dan Gibert, I think, all went out.
Oh, well, I wasn't there.
No. And then we ended up going out later, too. We actually went back to Joey's house for a bit, I think.
Really?
Yeah, but I destroyed everyone in pool, which I didn't actually remember until I was talking to Dan again recently, and he's like, yeah. Or no, we went out to play pool with him when he was in town. And he's like, yeah, are you going to, like, school everyone again? And I was like, what? Like, I actually didn't remember.
Yeah.
Because there's always,
just
like,
came
this
so
perfect...
naturally.
Well, there's, like, a perfect level of, like, I can't be completely sober and I can't be really drunk.
Yeah.
But, like, in the middle, I get really good at pool for some reason. So...
I don't think, I think I'm just bad regardless of what intoxication spectrum I'm on. Actually, that one day I was pretty good. Do you remember that? It was
the time when you, like, fell asleep under the table?
No. This was about, like, a month. It was, like, the first time that you and Sarah and I and John hung out together after having Leo. And we went to Riley's and played pool.
Okay.
And I remember, like, I don't even think I was drinking, but my mom was watching him, and she showed up because I had to feed him.
Yeah, okay, I remember.
So I ran out. But I think I was pretty good that day.
Yeah.
But that was, like, the only time ever.
Yeah. But besides that, we used to, like, and still do sometimes, like, watch horror movies.
Yes.
And...
Drink Caesars.
Drink Caesars. Do you remember what the first one we watched was?
Like, after having Leo or before?
Before.
Before.
What was the first one after?
I wanted to watch, what's it called? Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Really?
Yeah, but we couldn't watch that. So then we watched, what's it called? Freddy vs. Jason. Yeah. I still want to watch Friday the 13th though.
Like you're talking like the original one, the very first one?
No. The one like...
Oh, the remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
One. That was like actually one of the first horror movies that I watched by myself. But I just remembered which one we watched before. It was Sinister.
Okay.
Yeah, one of them at least. That was like one of like the first three, and I remember it scared me so bad. Holy, like I have watched a lot of horror movies with you guys, and like that's the only one that like I think about when I'm in the dark at home. Like I'm afraid of that. Like I just think about it and it freaks me out.
Yeah, Sarah and I saw it when it came out. I think it would have been like 2012.
Yeah.
And I remember like we still didn't know each other all that well yet. Mm-hmm. So we like got back and we were talking and we were both pretty excited about seeing it and stuff like that. And I remember like a few days later, I can't remember what brought it up, but she was like, we're talking about the movie again. And I was like, yeah, I would like totally see it again. And she's like, do you mean in theaters? I was like, well, yeah, like I guess. And she's like, oh, cool, because like I've wanted to see it again like since we left last time. And I was like, God. Oh, sweet. So yeah, that movie is obviously like super high up there.
Yeah. What's your least favorite? Like absolute least favorite?
For horror movies?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Like there's so many of them that are really disappointing just because that's how the genre is a lot of the time.
Do you get disappointed in horror movies because they weren't scary enough, or just they weren't made well?
I think at this point it's more so if they're not different enough.
Right.
Because like when I was younger, like just before I went into high school, probably like that. I don't know why. Just like no one in my family really liked horror movies at all. Like my brother, sister, mom, dad, none of them liked them. Yeah. So I never really saw them that much when I was like growing up. But back then was when I started to get into them, like, for myself, because I had, like, a friend who had all these horror movies. Jordan, the one whose wedding I was in. Yeah, he had, like, all of these horror movies, and I remember, like, actually legitimately being scared of them back then. But then I realized that I, like, also really liked them a lot, so I watched so many that now they don't really scare me anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like I do remember a time, and the only reason I can say they don't scare me is because I know what it's like to be scared by them.
Yeah.
And there's definitely like sometimes a scene here and there, like Hereditary, which I don't think you saw yet.
No, I don't think so.
Where like I'll actually feel like really uneasy and kind of scared, but it's not like for a whole movie like it used to be back then.
Yeah.
So now it's like they're more disappointing because if they don't do something like different or have like an interesting story, I always just feel kind of let down.
Yeah.
Because I get really excited about them. Like I love the trailers for horror movies because they always get me excited, but then
they always
they're just not great.
Recently, what has been like your favorite horror movie that you and Sarah either like went saw in theaters, like something that you've never seen before? What's been your favorite?
I really like Hereditary, actually.
Oh, is that new?
Yeah, but I've only seen it once. Yeah, I guess it's kind of new. Like it came out probably about like 6 months ago or something like that. But that one was really different, but it's also kind of depressing. So like there's some movies where it's like I don't really want to watch them like all the time, but I can still kind of like them.
Yeah.
So that was one of those ones where it's like it's kind of depressing, it's a little bit slow, but I don't know. Other than that, I don't know. What about you? I really liked It, but that's because I really like the story. So.
I never even saw that. I remember you asked me to watch the trailer, and I was pregnant, and I was like, no, like I'm not doing this to myself. I'm not doing this to the baby. Like
you still
I refused.
haven't seen it?
No,
Oh my god.
I will now, but at the time, like when I was pregnant, I'm like, I'm not watching any horror movies. Like just like. Because I do get really scared by them. So I'm like, I feel like that's not good for the baby. Like, and it probably wouldn't have been, to be honest. Like, that's not like a good emotion to have when you're pregnant. I don't think.
I don't know.
But I'd watch it now. I remember, like, we did, like, that, like, summer 2016 when we, like, watched a bunch. I did, like, build up a bit of, like, a tolerance to them.
Yeah, like, you just get used to it in a weird way. Because, like, yeah, I definitely remember, like, being scared of, like, even, like, I think it was, he had this special edition of, you know, the, I think it was, like, 2003 Texas Chainsaw with Jessica Biel and...
Didn't we watch that? I think we watched that one together.
I'm pretty sure we have, yeah. Because that's, like, one that I still like.
Yeah.
But he had, like, a special edition DVD of it or something, and it had this really scary picture of Leatherface on it. Ooh. And even that, I was just, like, I was nervous to watch the movie just because of the poster. And, like, I wish I could still feel like that because it was so, like, awesome.
It's, like, exciting, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I would love to be, like, scared by movies. Yeah. But it's just, it doesn't happen because I've watched too many at this point, you know?
I think if I had continued to watch them with you guys, like, often, I would feel the way you do, but, like, after the 9-month break that I took, and probably more, because it was quite a while after, like, Leo was a bit older before we started hanging out, like, often again, and I'm just right back to where I started, like, maybe if not worse, just because... Like, I am a lot more emotional now, too, so I, like, see a kid or something, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, you won't like the start of it, then.
No.
Even Jared, like, you know, Jared, he didn't like the start of that either, because he has a young kid. But, yeah, like, when I was mentioning, too, like, not being scared of them all that much anymore, there is, like, certain times, too, where it just kind of seems to happen out of nowhere. Like, I don't know if I've shown you House of the Devil yet. I think maybe.
Can you refresh my memory?
It's the one with, like, there's these babysitter ads, and she, like,
I did watch that with you guys.
Yeah, like, that one.
That one was weird. I feel like the only... Like, everything happened in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, and to me, that's what was so creepy about it, because the first time I watched it...
You were on edge the whole time.
Yeah, it was like Sarah was asleep, and we were in our old apartment, and I think for some reason we were sleeping on the pull-out couch, like, in the living room, but she fell asleep, like, super early, and it was, like, pitch black and really quiet, so it was probably, like, the winter or something.
Yeah.
And... like, all the lights were off, and I just had my laptop, and I was looking at, like, forums for, like... top 100 scary movies or whatever to like find new stuff for us to watch. So there was that one, and I ended up looking it up and watching it that night, and it was just like the whole time I was just like, oh my God, something's gonna happen, because they kind of hint at it, but you don't really know what's going on, and that was what I liked so much about it. Like, I was definitely on edge for like the whole movie.
Yeah. What was that one that we watched recently, and it was kind of the same thing, like a babysitter, and she came to the house. They lived in like a different country.
Was it The Boy?
Yes. That one was really freaky too.
I think we watched that the same night we watched Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, we did. Sure. It was after. Yeah, because you and I, Sarah fell asleep, and you and I stood up and watched that one.
Yeah.
That one really freaked me out. More so than Freddy vs. Jason.
No, Freddy vs. Jason is just fun. Yeah. It's like silly.
Yeah. That's like a good starter horror movie. That's what I feel like I should have started with, not Sinister. Holy.
Yeah.
That one was really freaky, but maybe it was better that I started at that one, because then like everything else after that wasn't as bad.
Yeah. No, the Conjuring ones too, like I'm not as happy with them as I was before, and The Nun was like, it was okay, but...
I don't think I've seen The Nun. That one was kind of new.
It would have been in theaters, like...
I saw, we would drive by Water Street, and I would be like, hey John, you want to go see that? And he's like, nope. I'm like,
does he watch them at all, or like specific ones, or no?
No, we've seen one horror movie in theaters, and I dragged him to it. Like, I'm like, oh, it won't be that scary. And what was it? It was, what's it called? It was in theaters.
We with you?
No, you and Natalie and Sarah went to see it together, though. The Forest one. And they're
is
like,
it called The Forest?
No, it was like a remake. What's it called? They were like, it's been 5 days.
Oh, the Blair Witch.
The Blair Witch Project, yes, that one. We
Yeah.
saw that in theaters, and I don't think I looked at the screen the entire time. Like, I was just, like, turned facing
So you didn't
John.
even see The Witch?
No, and I'm glad that I didn't, because John said it was, like, the most horrifying thing he's ever seen.
Yeah, it was creepy. I liked it, because a lot of people were, like, pissed off, I think, when they found out that The Witch got shown in it, because did you ever watch the original?
No.
It's basically like, it was like one of the first kind of majorly popular found footage.
Yeah.
Like, the only reason Paranormal Activity kind of came around was because of Blair Witch and stuff like that. But they're walking around and they don't show the witch in the movie at all. And everything that happens is just, like, kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing. But it's actually pretty good. Like, I like it. And for some reason, it reminds me of Halloween. I think because they're just in the forest in autumn. But I liked that in the sequel they just showed it, because I was just like, if you don't like it, you could just pretend that movie's not part of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it didn't really make sense anyways. Like, the guy's supposed to be the main character's little brother. Mm-hmm. And he's, like, in his early 20s in the movie, I think.
I didn't even know that there was a connection between the characters from the old movie and the new
Yeah, there was. It was, like, the guy who's going out into the forest.
Okay.
And I think he, like, if you were to, like, make sense of the timeline, he would have been, like, 2 or 3 years old when she went missing. And he's talking about, like, remembering to go out to look for her and stuff like that. And it's like, you wouldn't really be going out to look for her if you were that young, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But I honestly, I don't think I even saw, like, a second of the movie, like, after it got super scary. But John did. The poor guy had to watch the whole thing. But Paranormal Activity, though, those were movies that I watched before I met you and Sarah. I would always watch them in theaters if we were going, if, like, it was just, like, a date or, like, a friend or something.
I think the first one I went to see came out the year that I first got into high school, I think. Like, the very first Paranormal Activity. I'm pretty sure it was, like, when I was in grade 9.
Yeah, I probably saw, like, the second one in theaters then, because I would have been, like, however old. I'm 4 years younger than you, so.
You would have been, like, 10.
What? Okay, no, I'm definitely.
Because what are you in grade 9? 14, right?
Well, I had a late birthday, so I was 13, but.
Loser.
Well, I definitely saw some Paranormal Activity movies in theaters, like, at least 2. Maybe even 3.
Yeah, I think it was 2009. Oh my god, it was 2007.
Really? Holy.
Yeah, well, no, because that makes sense. So I would have been in grade 10, I guess, maybe.
Okay, so that makes sense. I probably would have seen, like, the second and third one in theaters then.
Yeah.
Because I remember after I saw, well, it was my first one, but it would have been the second movie in theaters. I was waiting for the third one to come out because I wanted to go see it.
Yeah, the first one was kind of weird because they, like, had a really low budget thing going on at first, and then they, like, changed the ending once they got a budget to release it in theaters. But yeah, I remember seeing, like, ads for it after it had already come out.
Yeah.
And it was basically like they would play the trailer and it would just show the audience in, like, a night vision camera, and they'd all be, like, freaking out like it was the scariest thing ever. And it's like, if you want to see the movie, demand that it goes to your theater. And, like, they were getting people to, like, talk to their local theaters and tell them to bring this movie there or something.
God.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. But they did well after.
Yeah.
Did you like those movies?
I thought they were all right.
Yeah.
Like, after Sarah and I got together, we went to see, like, everyone that came out after. Yeah. Just because they're, like, kind of, like, almost guilty pleasure movies. Like, they're simple, right? You can they're usually, like, an hour and a half long, so, like, you don't have to, like,
something scary happens the last, like, 5 or 10 minutes, and that's it.
That's it. Well, I remember, like, it was probably around, like, between, like, 2 and, like, maybe, like, 4 or something.
Yeah.
And they would always have, like, nighttime scenes where it was just like it would go to night
and the pool,
and, like, one little thing would happen. Yeah,
they would show, like, the pool, and they would show, like, the, what is it called, like, the squeegee thing, like, that cleans it, and it would be like going up the side or something, and, like, just something so stupid. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it like shot out of the water in one scene or something, and they're like, look at this. It's always them watching it the next day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe we'll pick up some spirits on this podcast recording.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I have a Ouija board.
Something really creepy, actually, that happened to me. And, like, coming from someone who, like, nothing creepy ever happens to unless I, like, start thinking about Sinister and it freaks me out. Leo was napping the other day, and he was super tired. So when he woke up, I think he was still kind of out of it. But I was in his room with him, and I was just, like, rocking him in the chair. And he put his head up, and pretty much immediately after he put his head up, he looked at the closet and he started waving. He goes, hi.
Oh,
just
so
like
creepy.
at the dark closet. And I was like, there's nothing there, honey. It's okay. It's okay.
They had a Kristen Stewart movie that was kind of like based on that whole idea.
Messengers?
Yeah, The Messengers. That's what
Actually, that's really weird. That was like I think that was the first horror movie that I saw. It was my friend Kaylee's birthday. And we were all at her house, and, like, we were, like, doing something during the day, but then at night we were all going to sleep over, and for some reason we decided to watch The Messengers, and Kaylee and I still talk about how much that affected us, because we were so young. We were in, like, probably grade, like, 6, and I cannot believe that her parents didn't know that we were watching that movie, but it was just, like, yeah, we literally still talk about how much, like, that movie affected, like, us.
That one for me was like Signs, because like I was just kind of still in that stage where they were like really scary for me, and I was probably in like grade 6 or something like that, however old you are then. And it was in theaters, and like my parents had to do something downtown where for some reason I was with them. And I was just supposed to meet them actually at St. Verona's afterwards, because they were like going to be at lunch after they were done whatever they were doing. But I had like all this time to just do something downtown. So I was like, oh, I'll go see this movie. And it was like months after it had been released. So I was literally the only person in the theater.
Oh my God.
And I remember like there's that scene in it where I think it's like the first scary thing that happens, where he looks outside and he sees the, like, alien, but you don't know it's an alien yet, like, on the roof. And I was just like, holy shit. And I was sitting there, like, this little kid alone in the theater, watching this movie that just scared the shit out of me. But I still love that movie.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that, and I don't want to now.
Are you fucking serious? You haven't seen Signs?
No.
Oh, my God, Katie. It is so good.
Really? I don't like ones with aliens, though, because I still think that plane went missing in Malaysia. I think that it got taken by aliens.
Maybe. Have you ever heard that recording of the guy?
Yes. Yes. I have. Okay, I'm sorry, but this is something that I'm very passionate about. I know that plane got taken by aliens. So. Like, they sent out a recording that was these people aren't human. Like...
Wait,
beware,
I don't
these
think
people aren't human.
Oh, okay. All right.
You're
thinking of something different than what I was talking about.
It was something that got sent out, and it was like, beware, like, be cautious, like, they aren't human.
Okay, well then how about this?
Oh my God, I just got chills.
Why don't we end your first podcast here, and for the second one, we can talk about all that stuff, because that's really fun to talk about.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
And I want to, like, watch some more stuff on it first.
I'll just always have you on.
The one thing that... We could do, like, easily, like, 4 people if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I really do want to have Sarah on here, because that would be fun,
But yeah, there's, like, a bunch of stuff that I've, like, heard about on the internet and stuff, and I love talking about it, so I think it's fun.
Okay, cool. All right, well, this was fun. Thanks, everyone, for listening, if anyone's listening. I'm hoping to try and get podcasts up every 2 weeks, possibly every month. But that will be max. Every month it'll be... Fuck. Okay, let me start.
2 times per month?
Yeah. I'll try and do it either bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, or once per month. Maximum once per month. Probably no...
It wouldn't be maximum once per month.
What do you mean?
It would be maximum 2 per month, minimum 1 per month.
Yes, that's what I meant.
All right.
Okay.
Great work.
Great. Bye.
Bye.